Welcome to the Business Talk Library on RETV. And today we're talking about a very, very interesting topic, and it is firing your family. So today's topic is a very interesting one. It is, when you're working in a business and sometimes you hire family to work in that business. And the question is, can you fire your family without like ruining your family? Because just because they're family doesn't necessarily mean that they're always the best employees. So we're going to talk about this one. This one's going to be interesting. And I'm going to be honest with you. There have been some times where I have really thought about there's some family members that I'm just, we probably need to part ways, or we need to have some very honest conversations. So let's talk about it. So what are your initial thoughts?
I think we need to do a separate episode. I think we need to do one for firing family members, and I think we need to do one for firing your spouses.
Okay. Why, you want to fire me?
I'm just saying. Okay, so let's just.
No. You brought it up. Did you want to fire me?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I wanted to fire you. I mean, yeah, there's probably been times, but at the end of the day, no, don't. Oh my gosh,
what did I do?
Look, like last week, you actually were like, you know what? I was about to fire you. Did you tell me that?
I mean,
I
know that there have been times where I wanted to fire you. I'm concerned that you said you wanted to fire me. I'm like, what?
I'm like, we need to bring a new CEO in.
Okay.
No, but on a more serious note, I mean, I think this is a very interesting part, and an interesting topic, and I'm interested to get your thoughts. Because my experience is a little bit different. I come from a background where, I mean, there's multiple layers, but if I just think about like a lot of times you have like my dad, he has a school, and a lot of times he hired people that were somewhat related to us in the school. And it took him a very long time to fire them when they were performing poorly. Right. And I think it's a little bit different because sometimes you think in like the fact, and I'm sure this happens as well in your experience, is like when you hire someone that's older than you, right? It's just like, all right, well, at least for me, it's been awkward. And I mean, this was something that I struggled a lot in, like even when I became a new manager where like almost everybody was older than me. But it's like you need to like just having to learn how to put the age aside and focus on the experience and focus on the value the person is adding. Because that has probably been the biggest realization for me throughout this whole process is like, I need to stop focusing on, well, this person is older than me, this person's family, I don't want to hurt their feelings. And I need to start focusing on, is this person bringing in the value that I need for this business or for whatever it is that I'm doing?
I would say from my perspective, I think I am one of those people that I'm not going to get too emotional about it.
Absolutely not.
I'm not going to get too caught up in it. And not because I'm cold-hearted. There is a very compassionate reason why I don't get that emotional about that part. And I'm gonna explain why.
All right.
Because I actually think that my perspective is probably more loving and more compassionate than other people.
All
because right. And I'm gonna explain that in a moment. We'll get to that one later in the conversation. So to the first part, I think, for me, my background, like I didn't come from a entrepreneurial family to where, my father was in the military, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So, being business owners wasn't our thing. Now, one of the things that I definitely learned though, from working in churches to where it's like everywhere we lived, my parents were always very involved in working in churches and stuff. And so I learned it more so from working with volunteers. And so one of the things that I really, really started to see with volunteers is you really start to see people's human nature, because I think when people have a paycheck involved, they kind of put on a little bit of a front. But when people are volunteering for free, you see what they're really like. And so for myself, I mean, and my parents, we always had this, like, they always kind of had this mindset of, hey, even if you're volunteering, if you made a commitment to do this,
Yeah.
you need to do it like you're being paid millions of dollars to do it because you made a choice to commit to this.
Yeah.
And so if a person isn't getting a job done, then you don't need to be on the team. And that's kind of the mindset that I had. And I think that was reinforced from playing sports, to where growing up playing sports, I mean, whether it was soccer or whether it's football, it's you have that mindset like, hey, everybody that's on the field right now, you are on the field because you are the best person to do the job that you have. If you are slacking off and if you are not executing, then you will be replaced. You will be walked off to the sideline, and we'll bring somebody in that can do the job. And part of that, because it's like everybody else on the field is depending on you to do your job. If you don't do your job, then you don't deserve to be on the field.
You bring a lot of like energy. You really passionate about this, huh?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm very passionate because, and part of this, like I tell business owners all the time, because I think a lot of times business owners, they feel bad if they need to let somebody go or if they need to fire someone. And I always tell them, you know, one is I think you got to change your whole mindset about that, because it really comes down to this, like, what's the purpose, the goal, and the mission of the company? You know, and that means everybody is there to serve the mission and the goal of the company. Even the CEO, like even in our business, like I am there to serve the mission and the goal of the company. Now, if I am not doing the best job at that, then I either need to be moved to a new position.
Yeah.
We need to bring someone else in, because the mission is more important than my ego. You know, the mission is more important than my position, because and part of it is like in our businesses, I'm the CEO and an owner. As an owner, I'm like, I want the best person in the position doing the job, because as an owner, I want my business to succeed. And I think sometimes when people get into a job where they're so focused on what the job means to them, that they're not focused on the value they're supposed to be delivering, that's where I think it's just like, hey, as a business owner, and even if it's a family member, you either have to have a very clear conversation about what are the expectations. And if they aren't living up to the expectations, it's like, you know what? We might need to find a new position for you, or you might not need to work here. We might need to help you go find somewhere else to work.
Yeah. No, that's a valid point. I mean, I agree, because I think, and I'm sure you're going to touch on this, I think one of the factors that, and I find this as well, just not outside of family, is sometimes you run into the situation of, just because this role is convenient for you doesn't mean this role is best for you, right? And maybe it's not convenient, because if it was, you wouldn't be struggling as much as you were or whatever. But if you're not a good fit for this role, right? Like you said, I think you would much rather find something that complements you, that you're good at, than have to continue to stay in a role that you're not good at. But I think really having to take the emotions out of it, because I can relate to it. I had one employee that was a couple of companies ago, that was just performance was horrible. And initially I was like, all right, maybe he's just not, he's not doing the things that, when we had the conversation, it was like, all right, when we talked about his experience and what he enjoyed doing and compared it to his role, like he just wasn't feeling it. I guess he wasn't a good fit for that. So we tried to give him some things that would, like a project-based kind of report that like, hey, do this. This will give you experience as a good project to kind of, connect the dots and help you basically satisfy like, hey, your skill set. I think it was like IT or something. Gave that project. It was complete flop. And I'm like, all right, so at this point, it's not a skill set matching. You just not good. You just a slacker. Like, you just a poor performer. And either you need to leave my team or I'm going to fire you. Which one are we going to do, right? So I think sometimes I've learned to give the benefit of the doubt of, all right, is it just that you're not a good fit and we need to move you elsewhere? Or is it just that you're not willing to do the work, period, regardless of where you are, and you just want to stay home? So maybe this role is not the best for you to work in.
No, I completely agree, because I think, part of the reason I don't have an issue with firing family or even letting anyone go is not just because, hey, I'm just cold hearted. It's just because throughout the process, I'm thinking as a leader, my job is to help put you in an environment where you can be your best.
Yeah.
And if I realize, hey, the environment that we have here is not capable of allowing you to be your best, which means you will probably only be average at best. And I'm like, nobody ever wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I just want to be the best average person ever. Like nobody wants that in life. Like you don't want to go to your grave and that to be on your tombstone.
Like I was
so and so lived an average life. Like nobody wants that.
Yeah.
And so from my perspective, I feel like my job as the leader, even if it is family, my job is to help you get into the environment that is going to let you be the best, which is why, like, even when you and I had the conversation where I was like, I know that, you know, we own this business. I do want you to understand you can be a owner without actually having to work in the business.
That's correct.
You're going to get all the same benefits of, you know, as me as a co-owner, but don't feel like you have to work in the business, because if you aren't the right fit, like, don't put that stress on yourself. Like, I'm like, you know, you have access to all my bank accounts. You can take as much money as you want.
Yeah. No, that's a valid point. I agree. I think for me personally, like, I'm just going to be honest, with some exceptions, I don't think I would ever hire any of my family members, with some exceptions, because I just think, or even friends, I just think unless I'm far enough from the process where I'm not seeing their day to day, like once this company grows and we have people that are reporting to other people and I'm just, hey, at this, and I'm like, all right, I'm putting you kind of like the episode we watched of Hawaii Five-0. I wouldn't do that, where it was like the uncle was basically working with his nephew. And I'm like, I don't know that I would want to be that close to them, because I just feel like there's this biased opinion. And I'm like, I don't want to be dealing with that. So I'm gonna let you go in there, prove yourself. If you ain't gonna do a good job, you're gonna be fired. And that's what it is. But I would say, I think with the exception of a few people, like, I just think it puts people in an awkward position.
Really?
Now, I mean, this is the thing for me. Because I'm like, you still got to see that person at family dinner. And you know, some people take things personal. You still got to see that person during the holidays. Some people take things personal, like, oh, like you fired me or whatever. How can you do that to family? And then you have people that have their own opinions about it. And I'm like, look, I don't want to deal with any of this drama. I cannot. Sorry, the position is not available for you. I can't, because it just puts now. The reason I said with some exceptions is because I do think that there are people that I know or whatever, or just in general, where you have family members that are very good, very highly talented professionals. I think you also have to look at the character and who they are. If this is somebody who you've been talking to and you know that person's always late to work, you know that person never shows up on time, you know they're always like trying to work on their side business on the job, like, okay, like, probably not the person you need to be hiring to help you. Like, if you're looking for someone who is consistent, you're looking for someone who delivers, like, you got to look at the traits of the person before you hire them. Like, you can't just assume that if they were horrible at work at their prior job, that they're going to come and work in your business and be excellent. Chances are they're not.
I agree. I'm definitely a huge fan of the reality that a person can't be a slacker in the daytime and a superstar at night.
No.
Like, character is contagious to every aspect of your life. And I think that goes back to, you know, having a very, very good intake, or I guess you say interviewing or screening process. As a leader and as a business owner, one of the things that I got to grasp is like, do I have clarity on what I expect from this person or from this role? Let me put it that way. Do I have a clear expectation on what I want from this role? So whoever you bring in, you can provide them, hey, here are the clear objectives. And now I know you don't always do it well, because I didn't do it very well when we first started. There were different things you were doing in the business that I was frustrated, because I'm like, well, Lola's not doing this, not doing this. And one of the things that I had to look in the mirror and say, like, Terrell, you have not done a good job of laying out what you really expect. Like, how would she know that you needed this stuff to be done if you weren't clear about it? And so for me, it's like I had to go back to the drawing board and say, all right, you know, there's like, you know, 7 different core areas of our business. Which ones do you want to own? Like, which ones do your skill sets fit with best? And one of the things that I realized is you were trying to do all 7 and you were doing them somewhat mediocre, which is only expected because if you're trying to do 7 different things, you're not going to be stellar at anything. The best you can probably be is maybe decent if you're doing 7 different things. So one of the things I had to do is say, all right, how do I let her focus on the area where you're best at, where your skills actually line up with best. Plus, you're still working a full-time job. Yeah. And I think when we went back to the drawing board and we did that, and we were like, hey, you wanted to focus on marketing. And I'm like, okay, all right, here are my clear expectations for what needs to happen with marketing, and then let you go off and do your thing. It's just like, after we made that decision, you've been doing well. Now, we came back and made that decision and you weren't doing well, I would come back and be like, hey, I know you said marketing is your thing, but you seem to be missing the ball on these 3 things. Maybe we need to find something else. Because I think with family, you will have a little bit more grace to be like, all right, let me give you another shot at something else. That's to where now, if I give you a shot at something else and you still drop the ball there, then maybe you just need to be an owner and not an employee. Because I think about it, like I think about, funny conversations that I had with my dad, even growing up, to where like my dad, although he didn't own a business, he was a manager in different stores. Like he was a manager for Target for a while, manager for a hardware store. And one of the things that, we would talk about, even when I was in, middle school, is we just talk about like how, I was wondering like why he worked so much. And then part of it was there were people on his team that weren't doing their job. And so we talked through those things, and I understood that if you have somebody on your team and they're not doing their job as the leader, that automatically means you got to fill in for them. And one of the things that I said is, I don't want to I guess I can't afford to give my entire life to my business, because I'm like, I have a wife that I made, a marriage vow and a commitment to actually live life with you. So I'm just like, if I have a family member that's working in the business and the family member is not picking up their slack, so that means I have to work more to do my job and their job, which means I have less time with my wife. I'm just like, no, I'm just going to fire you and find somebody that can do the job so that I can actually do the things I need to do and enjoy, life at the level that I want to enjoy. And so I think that when you think about it from that perspective, it takes, as the decision maker, it takes the emotion out of it. Now, I'm not going to lie. That person may be in their feelings.
That'll be fine. I've had family members that have been in their feelings. I'm like, that relationship wasn't even that good. And if it was, all right, fine. Like, you'll be okay. Because for me, it's like, if you cannot, and this is the thing for me, I think I'm gonna bring this up. It's kind of related, but not really. The comment that you make about like the whole firing your family, like even the whole respect of your business. Like, just because we are family does not mean you should be disrespectful of what it is that I'm offering. Like, for example, family that comes and be like, oh, we family, can you give me a family discount? Like, no, you cannot pay the freaking price. Pay the freaking price. Like, before you ask me for a discount, first support my business before you even ask me for a discount. Like, have enough respect for the craft that the person has put in to pay them full price. Don't be coming over here asking for a family discount unless they freaking offer you. Like, no.
I think about that with like, behavior. Would you go into a stranger's business and ask the same thing?
Would you be like, oh, like, can I get a 25% friends discount? No. You would pay full price at somebody else's business. So why would you not pay? If anything, you are investing into somebody that you know, love, and care about. Would you much rather spend full price with a complete stranger that you don't know what they're going to take and use the money for than spend full price with a family member that cares about you and that you care about, and you can see where the money is going? So for me, that thing is just like, I'm just like, look, pay full price. Pay me full price. Have respect to pay me full price. Have respect to have, like, we see these movies all the time where people are like, oh, you don't come up in life and you're stuck up now. And like, now you think you're better than all of us. And that is why you're firing me. You're not just like, or as Africans say, why you're not just in the village the other day? Like, you coming from, I guess the village would be, I don't know what the village would be considered, like the rural suburbs in America. Like not
I don't
the
know if
urban
there's
area.
a very clear
The country.
translation.
It'd be like the
from
country.
the village
But
in Nigeria to
it would kind of be like a combination of like the villages, which honestly, like the village, people have come up in the village, so it's not even really like that. But the representation of the village used to be, it was kind of like what, rural? Is that the right word?
yeah, so
it was
it'd be
kind of
like
rural.
poor country.
It wasn't like poor, but yeah. Anyways, like country. What? Anyways, it's like I'd say it's deep country. It's not necessarily poor because there are people that have money, but they just choose to live there. I mean, just like anywhere in the country. Anyways,
Nah, it's a bit different.
Then I wouldn't compare it to poor country.
Yeah,
because there are people that
I'm
like the
saying,
kings
based
of
on
the
the
villages.
based on the story that Daddy has told me
I mean,
about life in the village.
That's different. That's different. And that
yeah.
was like, and that was also like 40 something years ago too.
Okay.
Like life has come up in the village. I mean, you've seen enough Nigerian like Prince Hakeem movies of like the king in the village.
Ain't princes.
I mean, that's true. Not everybody, but there is royalty. I mean, we definitely deviate. Sorry. But the point I'm trying to make is at the end of the day, like, hey, you know, respect your family, even if you're on the other side, the receiving end. I guess what we're trying to say is don't be afraid to fire for your family members. Focus on not just what's best on for your business, but also what's best for them. Because if you keep them, you're going to be doing an injustice to what their skill set can fulfill. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I would say is, as if you're on the other side of the business and you have a family member that has a business, support their business. Be respectful of their business. Don't ask them for a discount unless they offer it. When we go see our clients, we don't expect them to give us food for free. We don't. We pay unless they say, hey, no. And a lot of times we're fighting back and forth on the bill. Like, hey, no, please don't charge us or whatever. And they don't want to do that. But don't go in expecting any handouts. That is the best way you can support your business.
Yeah. I mean,
other people's business.
I think to your point about that whole, you know, when you bring someone on your team, it's like, is you want to know, do they respect the vision of what you're trying to create?
That's good.
I mean, because it's almost like, I think about like when I invite someone over to my house. Like, if you're in my house and you're disrespecting my house, I have no problem asking you to leave.
Because it's my house.
Even if you're a family member, like I have no problem asking you to leave. Now, I know that that's been very interesting because even from like when we got married and you were just like, you know, well, this sense of this culture and stuff like that, I was like, I will tell you this. I don't care who it is. I will ask them to leave our house. I was like, I don't care if it was somebody's grandma. If you are disrespecting my house, I'm gonna ask you to leave. And part of that is, you know, I guess the benefit of having a father that I do, to where he's very clear about, you know, very clear about his responsibility as far as to live up to the things that you have committed yourself to.
Yeah.
And to love and respect his wife and to care for his family. Now, if you start to violate any of those things, it doesn't matter who you are.
This is true.
He will definitely let you know what's up.
He's coming for you.
And he will definitely let you know, like, okay, all right, that's
the line.
Unacceptable.
That's the line, and you've crossed it.
And so, I mean, and I think the same thing with your business, because as a business owner, let's say, you know, if you do hire family, let's say, you know, you go through that process, they meet the expectation, the criteria, the quality, or maybe you inherited a business that already had family members in it. I mean, one of the things that I think that you can definitely have those honest conversations about, hey, here's what's going on in the business. Mm-hmm. Here's what the business needs.
Yeah.
And the question is, are you the best fit for that?
Yep.
If you're not, my thing is, I'll even work to help you find a job elsewhere. Like, I'll use my network to help you find what does work for you, because what's not going to work in the long run is you shortchanging the business or me having to go find other employees to backfill or to help prop you up because you're not doing your job. Because I'm like, at the end of the day, we're all here to serve the mission of the organization.
I like that. And I think especially if you have a business with your spouse or another, like you're sharing, you know, siblings have a business, I highly recommend, which I think since we've done it has worked wonders, establish the process and establish the mission and the vision and the goal of the company or the business, because no one can take anything personal. Because if I call you out for not doing what we agreed that your role and your responsibility was, you can't take it personal. Like you can't be in your feelings. You probably will be, but you agree to this. Like, all right, like you said, hey, you're not doing the marketing piece, but you said, hey, Lola, your responsibility, you signed up for marketing. So what are you doing? And it makes it a lot easier to keep the emotions out of it because you know that that's your job.
Yeah. And I think
that would be my recommendation.
If the person does take it personal, then you obviously know I can't trust you. I can't trust. I mean, because I think about it like, even if let's say, most people look at their business like it's their baby. I mean, it's just like, would you put your kids in the hands of somebody who's irresponsible?
Probably
I
not.
mean, you would be like, nah, that's not a good look. Exactly. I mean, because even if, let's say, for example, like you let a family member babysit your kids and you came home, your child had a bloody nose, and things were broken. And you like, what's going on? They're like, oh, I don't know. Like, you wouldn't be like, okay, well, I'm gonna let you babysit again. Like, you'd be like, nah,
absolutely not. Yeah.
And so I think people have to like really own a couple of parts. One is I think as a leader, you have to be very, very clear about what you're trying to achieve, like you said, with the goals and the mission, and then what are the objectives of the job that they are filling, and also understand that you are filling a job. Like the job wasn't created for you. You are here to fill the job. And so if you aren't filling the job and there are gaps, then we either need to find a new job for you, or we need to have an honest conversation and say, hey, you know what? Maybe there's somewhere else that's better for you to help give you what you want, because I don't believe you want to be average. I don't believe you want to be subpar. And right now, your performance is below average. And so if your performance is below average, that probably means this isn't the right fit for you. Let's go find somewhere else. Or how can I help you get above average? Because if you can't get above average, then it's best for you to go find another job. And I'll help you find another job if that's what it takes. But I think as a leader, you have to be more adamant about making sure that you are setting up that environment and that you are keeping that as the goal of the thing is to help maximize not only the financial resources of the business, but help other people maximize the opportunity. And if they can't, then, hey, we need to make some changes.
Understood. No, I definitely agree with that. So, yep.
Absolutely. So thanks for tuning into another episode of the Business Talk Library on RETV. If you'd like to see more of the Business Talk Library, be sure to watch us every week on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m.